For the nose piece in this 40 Ford hood, at the end you'll see a nice finished panel, just like that. But for the people who skip through to the end, if you want to see how we get from this to here, watch the whole video. Thanks a lot, guys. I think this is going to be as close as we're going to get this template to fit to the front nose piece of the hood here. I'm going to explain to you what we're going to do with this piece before we get into it. This blue band through here, that's going to be the wheeling zone. So it basically starts off with a narrow band here, same band that was running down those side pieces of the hood, extend into a wider band so we can have the material roll over, and then narrow up and blend into this piece here. Now this top section, all this bunched up material has to be shrunk on the sheet metal. So we're going to have to do a whole ton of shrinking on the stump just to get it to roll over and sit properly. We have two dashed lines, one on either side, and that's going to be the reverse curve that comes down from the hood to the cut line, which is actually going to be over here, but this is the piece that it has to blend into. So we cannot wheel this area here. We have to stretch this material here as well as here to have it sit the way it needs to. We have a piece of flat bar that runs in behind this template here. And this is going to be the cut line just above it here. So we're leaving quite a bit of material just so we can reposition this if we need to and not run short. Because that's the worst thing in the world is getting everything shaped up and then find out you're a bit short. So we'll probably roll over about ½ inch underneath afterwards and tie it into the structure of the hood. But for now, we'll leave it long. And then the same on that side. Now this sheet of steel up on here, that's just a piece that I just finished cutting out of a brand new sheet and just threw it up on top. I left it a lot of extra material so that we could scribe it to the sides of the hood. Now we had clamps sticking out everywhere here, and it was kind of interfering for us to work on the template. So I put a few tacks just to hold those pieces in place because they're pretty much where they need to be, and then we can start working the top and the nose into those pieces as well as these areas here. I'm going to get started on this nose piece here and get the rough shape established, get it up on the hood, and then once it's more or less sitting where it needs to, we'll scribe the front edge and just so that everything blends in together and trim up this large section. Let's pull this off and let's get started. Now one thing I'm going to do is just take this template, fold it in half, and just trim things up so that we have a symmetric piece here. That should be good. Now normally, after rubber wheeling, I'll use the English wheel with the hard anvils and begin stretching the material. But because we want this panel to sit more or less in the proper orientation on the front of the hood, I'm going to start today by shrinking that top edge. We're going to have to do it in several passes. Shrink it, smooth it out, shrink it, smooth it out. Just so we get into the right shape. Because right now, well, we're way too flat. I could put a cut here, cut it, and then bring it together. But because we're dealing with such a nice curvature around the front, a cut will give us a point. And I don't want a point. We did that down below, and the situation was different. We had a point down there. By shrinking this, it's going to get us where we need to be. So we got our first tuck. I'll probably do a few more and close the end in, and then pound the tuck into itself. So we got our tuck, close the end just like that, close that one. Now that's the high point of the tuck, boom. There's one more tuck here. The reason you close the tuck is if you don't close it and you pound that ripple back down, the panel will just simply open up. This locks things in place. Pound that down, the material gets squished into itself. See, the curvature is still maintained. this point, I'm going to take and smooth that out, because what's happening now is we're getting so much shrinkage, the material is actually trying to roll over itself, and we don't want that. We don't want a double layer of material. We want, or actually triple. We want the material to smooth out, and then we'll repeat the whole process again. Pretty beat up, eh? But give it a few minutes and we'll get that smoothed out. And we have a ways to go, guys. Now you don't want to try and smooth out all these walnuts at one time. You want to kind of work them out slowly. So I'm going to start from the inside of the panel and work my way out, because the outside of the panel is holding things kind of bent into position, and it's essentially closing all the tucks we've created. So by wheeling this out, we're going to get the shrinkage we need. As you can see, using a very flat anvil to work this out. This front nose piece is 18 gauge, so by the time we shrink that down, we're probably reaching 17. And then we'll stretch other areas, and they'll get into about 19 gauge. So we're just moving material around. Okay, not sure if you can see the texture of the metal, but that material, when we smooth it out, will be perfectly smooth. But you can see the process of the shrinking happening. So, see, there's a bit of a dish here in the peak. This is nice. We're going to take and work this out, bring it up, and then shrink it again. Okay, let's go wheel this out again. At this point, I'm going to work one side then the other. I don't want to flatten out the peak that we're getting by using this particular anvil here. Okay, at this point, I'm going to switch over to a higher crown anvil and work this center section just to bring that out. Got my peak line indicated down below and up above. So I'm just going to work this area out. This area is relatively flat. Has a bit of a convex shape to it, but not too much. It's this front peak that has most of the shape, as well as the reverse curves. So we can't overwheel this and create bulges here. We will end up wheeling this area through here to get this to curve around as a reverse curve, but we have to keep that tight. We can't extend into here too much. You can see the oil being squished out of the material. Now I took and wiped this panel off with lacquer thinner, make sure it's perfectly clean. But as we're working it, you can see the oil's being squeezed out. And that's right directly from the manufacturer. I'm only going halfway on this panel. Blend things in a little bit here. can see the difference between this side, we just finished it up, and this side here. So we're going to have to smooth this out, and then we'll go back and beat it up again. See how much we got to move. Well, I'm actually surprised because that's not too bad. The right side there that we were wheeling earlier, that's pretty good. This side here has to roll down on top. It opened up a little bit, which means that we have to do a little more shrinking on this side, bring that down, and then we can start rolling these out, because right now this is what's holding us from settling down all the way. And the front peak as well. We're too upright through here. It's more of a gradual radius, so we need to give this some more curvature through here. All right, guys, so what I'm going to do is go back to the stump and shrink this area once again, and then wheel it all out and actually start working these two edges outward so that the panel more or less sits on the buck. Once we get closer, I'll bring you guys in for a look. Well, that's as close as we can get it at the moment, guys. These reverse curves are holding us from sliding all the way back. We've got about 1.5 inch space between the buck and the panel, but I got looking at this panel in this position. Now the buck, when I designed it, I had a more subtle curve to the front nose. This one here, it's more traditional, if you will. It's more vertical. What do you guys prefer, a more laid-back look or the more traditional look on a hot rod? I think it's going to give the front a little more aggressive look than if we laid it back. But that's just my opinion. Put it down in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. Well, you guys might ask how long it's taken to get this panel to this point. And I'm just going to say that it's taken as long as I needed to. If I did it tomorrow and it had a different mood tomorrow, it might have gone faster or slower. It depends. I think we're going to leave it and move on to the top panel for now. Take a break from this. And maybe by tomorrow it'll sit by itself. You know, the fabrication elves will come in and fix it for us. I don't think so, but you never know. So let's get the top panel in the wheel and start wheeling that one.